Hello and welcome to the Point of Leadership podcast. My name is Mike Hopkins and I'm going to be your host for this podcast today. And I'm really excited. I'm going to be joined by a colleague, Daniele Perchiazzi. He's going to be calling in from Sweden, where he currently lives. He's originally from Italy. And Daniel and I have worked together for a couple of years now. And he's got a real interesting insight into language and the origins of certain words and language and what it should give to us in terms of our direction of travel and the intent that it holds. So hopefully during the podcast we'll explore some of Daniel's insight into that and what it means for us as managers, indeed as leaders. One of the first times I met Daniel, he did this rather interesting exercise. He had some post-it notes and on the post-it notes are written these various phrases like be a good earner, always be on time, be honourable, and never introduce yourself as the boss. And he laid these out, and there's some other post-it notes there as well. And he said, what do you think of these? I had a read, I thought, yeah, they're okay. And he said, are they values? And I looked at them and said, well, some of them are, some of them maybe not. And he said, but are they things that you could agree to or sign up to? And I looked at them and I thought, yeah, by and large, I think yes, probably, yes. And I said, why do you ask? He said, well, these are the values of a mafia boss. I thought it was a really good exercise. A really good exercise for lots of different reasons. But that for me gave me a line of sight of Daniel as being someone who thinks about things differently. And hopefully that'll come through in our podcast today. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll see you soon. Daniel, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. Nice to see you. It's been a little while since
Sure,
we
yes,
last caught up. I guess for the audience, Daniel, it'd be good to know who you are. Tell us a bit about yourself. I know you're quite a humble individual. Just for the audience, it's a sense of who you are.
Of course. So my name is Daniele Perchiazzi, but of course the audience that speaks English can call me Dan or Daniel, as you do, Mike. It works perfectly fine. I've been working in England for many years. I moved there in 2007. With my very old job, where I was employed by this company in Milan, and my role was to expand the Northern European market to the company. And when I moved to London in 2007, bear in mind that was before the financial crisis of 2008. So
Yeah.
I was way younger, unfortunately, and then also I believe their life standards were higher. So I decided to move to the UK for good. So I left all I had back home. At home back in the day was Milan, because I lived 10 years in Milan. And then I decided to move to the UK, London to be specific. And I started my career within the luxury industry. I have an extensive career in luxury retail. I've been working for some of the very known brands, some Italian, some French, very well-known brands out there, covering managerial roles. And while I was working in retail, I realized that my biggest passion was to work with what I still call my guys, my team, my people. And helping them to develop, helping them to unlock their full potential in my professional life. So I dedicated a fair amount of time, money, study in understanding more how can I use this mission and this passion in something that I can live on, something profitable. And then I start to study coaching, executive coaching. I studied and am now qualified to use some of the most famous and popular psychometrics for the corporate environment. I studied neuro-linguistic programming, and I went through the entire process from practitioner, master practitioner, and trainer. Considering also that my dad, he's an author of NLP books in Italy. So it's like I always had certain things in the back of my head, and then I finally had the opportunity to use them in my private and professional life, of course. So eventually, around 12 years ago, I had the fantastic opportunity to work in the L&D field, supporting professionals, managers, mid-senior managers, starting from the luxury industry, of course, because that was my background. But then, considering our line of work, I could diversify, and now nowadays I work with pharmaceutical companies, IT, automotive, food and beverage, and shipping, you name it. And so, in a nutshell, this is my my journey. And in conclusion, I have to say that what has embellished my journey so far has been the incredible opportunity I currently have to teach at 2 universities. I'm teaching students doing the masters, the bachelors, and from next year also executives. I'm teaching something very fascinating in my eyes, which is understanding a luxury consumer for the unconscious point of view. So what are the unconscious motivators that push people to buy a luxury good or service or not? So this is,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, this is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of things I learned from that introduction actually, which I didn't know about you. One of those things is your father wrote books on NLP. So I guess you've got a real deep interest about language and
Yes,
the origins of language and the impact that language has on the brain. Is that correct?
that's absolutely correct. I truly believe that in order to be an effective leader, because my my biggest passion is to lead people in being the best version they can be of themselves, you need to be able to communicate effectively. And you can master communication if you know how to master language. That's in Latin, they used to say a conditio sine qua non. It's an essential condition. When something is crucial, you cannot do anything without it. They used to say it's a conditio sine qua non. So it's a condition. Without it, you cannot do anything else. So it's a must. Hence, I very early in my career, I understood the importance of mastering language, understanding the etymology of words gives you like a superpower when you interact with people.
A superpower for leaders, for managers, I guess for people per se.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This
Hmm.
is important not only when you want to inspire, want to lead, you want to persuade, you want to motivate, but it is important also when you need to filter the constant bombardment of information you receive from media nowadays to improve your critical thinking. Otherwise, we can be easily fooled by the words that we read somewhere or that we hear. So I think mastering language is a fantastic tool to lead, but also it's a form of self-defense.
Because there's a lot of white noise out in the business world, isn't
Absolutely.
there?
A lot of white noise, buzzwords that sound charming, fascinating, but actually, the thing is, the more you use some words, the less impactful they are.
Just recently, I had to write a document for an organization, a volunteer organization, and I was just doing it, as a favor. And
Hmm,
the feedback came back about the document saying that they wanted to change a term to
hmm,
stakeholders,
hmm.
which is a very corporate term.
Yep.
And why stakeholders? And they said, well, that's a word that everyone understands. And I was kind of interested by their insistence on the word stakeholders. Do you agree that's a very corporate term? Is that a buzzword that
It
you?
is. It is, and my, I would say, philosophical approach to terminology will force me to ask, well, who is a stakeholder first? because then we have some common definition of who is a stakeholder. But if you read the generic definition of stakeholder, technically, everybody can be a stakeholder. Even the last of the employees of an organization can be a stakeholder, technically speaking. Because if you put yourself in his employee's shoes, he or she also has something at stake. Also, he or she has something to get out of the success of the company or not. And when I mean success, I'm not only referring to the turnover, I'm referring to the quality of life within the company. So yeah, in theory, stakeholders are some people they can easily identify, but in real terms, in my eyes, a stakeholder can be anyone. Because if you don't have everybody that feels like a stakeholder within the organization, you are automatically limiting their room for leadership. And if you agree with me, leadership is not something that you have because you have a title or because you cover a position. I really believe that everyone, even an apprentice, this person can absolutely showcase traits of great leadership. But if I pass a message that stakeholders are certain people with that run high risks, hence they need high responses, high quality responses, because they have to have higher positive outcomes. That's very limiting. It's very limiting. So I understand if they say, oh, they say called. In fact, they say I wasn't involved in what you just in your in Latin is called pro bono activity. I wasn't involved in that, but I assume for what you said, they are referring to certain people, these stakeholders are expecting a specific terminology from your end.
Yes.
Like, it's like back in the day when we had the gods and the goddesses on the Olympus Mount, and then need to satisfy them, otherwise they can be upset and they can punish you. So please satisfy the stakeholders.
Yeah, for me, it's just one word, just one buzzword at the moment, but I just find it's very generic. It's non-specific. So, it might mean me, it might mean someone else. It doesn't give any sense of responsibility or accountability, or indeed any recognition of people that might have specific interest in what's being outlined. But I totally agree. I think there's so much buzzword out there that it takes away from a sense of authentic communication.
Absolutely.
It's just noise.
It's just noise. Yeah, it's just noise.
In your introduction, I really like what you said. You were looking after I think you said the word guys, your team, and that's what got you an interest.
Yeah.
My observation is most managers see the development of the teams as like an afterthought. It's something they do when they've got nothing else to do. It's something they do when HR or L&D asks them to do it. If you had a genuine interest, can you tell me a bit about that?
I understood very quickly that as a manager and leader, sometimes we need to specify that these two words are not synonyms.
Yes.
But you need to, you're successful if you shine, but you can only shine if your team shines. I don't, if you work in a team, of course, if you work by yourself, fair enough. But if you are leading and managing a team, you cannot expect to shine without letting and making your team grow. It can happen. I saw it a few times, but that's a very small win because you can win in the short term as a manager and leader. You can pretend for some time that you are the person that has led to success the team, even although it's not true. But sooner or late, the reality is going to be so evident in your face that you're going to regret it. So it's much wiser to, if you work in a team, to grow your team, because then the success is everlasting, is everlasting, rather than putting the spotlight on you.
So, growing a team, not just in terms of the size of the team, but in terms of the competence and the confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. It can be one person. It can be one person in a team. That's enough, as long as I equip, I empower, and I lead this person correctly, with all, course, all the mistakes I may make, because I'm a human being, of course, but with a genuine interest in empowering this person. Actually, the thing is, my interest should be, in theory, to help someone to take my place one day, to
That's
replace me.
counterintuitive. That's counterintuitive.
It is.
Some people feel
Absolutely.
threatened by that.
Absolutely. You need to, that is why I truly believe that in order to master leadership, as usual, like this is a recurrent theme in life, you need to know yourself very well, very deeply, facing your fears, facing your dark side. And the moment you realize that you're not helping people to become better than you or to replace you eventually because you are fearful of something, well, that means that you need to stop, reflect, and work on it till you fix that. You cannot pretend it doesn't exist, because that's a blocker. And then blocks not only your professional development, but also the one of the people you're leading.
So that's kind of looking at it with I don't know, a different lens, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So replacing you, because everyone moves on in some shape.
Absolutely. Yep.
The ability to regenerate, I guess,
Yes.
our
Yes.
respective teams.
Absolutely.
That's nice. That's
It's the
really.
beauty. I think that the true beauty is in seeing people growing around you, and then without worrying about the future, because you know that even if you're not going to be there, someone else can do your job, or maybe even better than you do now. And that's the beauty. That's at least my drive, is my way of seeing it.
So if we were in the training room right now, or the classroom, and we said that, if you said that, and I was a
Yeah.
casual observer at the back of the room, I think most people intellectually would go, yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm not sure many people would actually do it day in, day out. That wouldn't be the focus of their behavior
Yes.
or their intention. What advice or what guidance would you give those people then? So intellectually they understand it, they agree, but in terms of what they do, there's a disconnect.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, there is only one way to deal with it, which is working on yourself first. Which reminds me about the word that we use so much, which is leadership. You know, the word leadership, the etymology of the word leadership is believed coming from ancient German, old German, from a word which is now, I don't speak German, but so I ask for apology to German speakers, but something like a ledere, a word sounds something like ledere
They do it.
in
Okay.
German, which means it used to be around the Middle Age time, the ability of someone to show the path, to show the way to other people. What happens is that in maybe you can help me with this word. It's an old English one. Around the beginning of the 19th century, we started to add to the word leader, or to the verb to lead, the suffix ship, and that comes from the ancient English word like sheepe, sheepy. something like that. Ship. When we say ship,
Yeah.
the suffix, which means something else. So while lead is an action, so the first part of the word is, I show you the way, so I do something.
Yeah.
The second part, the ship part, refers to your state, your being, who you are. So basically, are you in the right state to lead people? So when we talk about leadership, the first 50% of it is doing something, is leading. But the second 50%, second half, is being. Are you in the right state? Can be psychological, emotional state to then lead, because the leader is not, we know that, we do this for a living. It's not easy at all. So in order to take action, are you in the right state or not? Which is the answer to the question. That's why some people don't do it. Because maybe even if they understand it, they have the right intent. Okay, I want to do it, but they still struggle. They are not able to do it because they are not yet in the right state.
Oh my gosh. Let me take a moment, okay? So I've used
Yeah.
leadership as a word for 30 plus years in the work I do.
Mm.
I now feel embarrassed. I've never ever tried to work out where the term comes from. I just accept it as being a term.
Yeah.
50% is about giving the direction. Old
Doing
German.
thing. Yeah.
The ship part, a lot of phrases in the UK in English come from the marine world, from
Yeah.
North.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I just assumed it came from a similar sort of origin. But you're saying the ship part of leadership is about being in the right state.
It's about being.
So if I'm a leader, if my position requires me to demonstrate leadership, the direction is maybe easy, or maybe not so. But it's about me having the resources, the ability
The
to take.
internal resources. Not only, of course, because the thing is, everybody complains because of a lack of external resources. Like my company doesn't, I'm struggling because I don't have enough time, enough
Yes.
budget, enough people, enough this and that connections, and which is true, absolutely. I'm not saying that that's not the case. What I'm saying is, have you ever stopped and reflect about your internal resources? Because otherwise, I mean, we are there to make a difference in our, especially if we are covering a leadership role, to make a difference because we can add some value that comes from us. Otherwise, they can put anyone in that position if you need a person to use external resources. So what is the value that you adding at the moment as a leader? Your thing, what do you have inside? What drives you? How good are you to coping with perplexities, complexities, uncertainties, doubts, all the things that crosses our mind all the time.
Uh, okay. So if I follow that line of logic, I'm in a leadership role.
Mm.
I kind of know the direction of the organization of the business. That's fine. But if I'm not adding value in my leadership role, if I'm not helping other people to make sense of those complexities and
Yeah.
difficulties, then I shouldn't be the leader.
I can be easily replaced by someone else, or nowadays by something else, if you think about artificial intelligence,
That makes leadership quite a hard place to be, doesn't it? Because we may
It is.
be
It
that
is.
resourceful,
It is.
but yet we have to find it within ourselves to add that value, to enable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if you never stop and look inwardly, understanding who you are, and how you work, and also how you react to triggers, situations. How can you lead other people if you don't know yourself? You can't lead yourself. If you can't lead yourself, how can you lead other people?
The word organization, where does that come from?
Well, from the belief that an organization is like it resembles the human body, a living organism. If you think about it, within an organization, you have different parts or departments, or you call it as you wish, but the principle must be, it should be actually, it should be that one.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. There's a subtlety to that, isn't there? So if we're dealing with an organization and one part of that organization is not well, not performing, it can affect the
Exactly.
rest of the
Absolutely.
organization.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So as we're looking at
Which,
organizations and companies, we're looking for where the treatment needs to be applied, or how it can be healthier or
exactly.
fitter.
If you want to see in this way, people like me and you are sort of, no, I hope nobody gets offended by sort of doctors, and we need to maybe do a little surgery in a specific limb, for example, or organ of this body. Yeah, if you see it that way. But again, I'm not sure this is the origin, but it will make sense.
Regardless of the origin, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because if we see an organization as a living thing, not just an inert set of buildings with people in it doing whatever they do, how can we make it fitter? How can we make it healthier?
When we speak in English, we use actually like 70% of the words, something like that. They're coming from German or Germanic languages, and then the remaining 20-30% from Latin and Greek. And usually, this is something I've been told, usually the most sophisticated words are rooted into Latin and Greek, while the normal
Oh,
words that we use every day are more rooted into German. I've been told this by
I've got to
a very well educated British person, so I want to believe him.
so give me an example of a sophisticated word then.
I don't know. It depends, because for me some words are not sophisticated, but I realize that when I speak with some people, they are. But you know what? Actually, there's another word that we use all the time. So it's not sophisticated because we use it every day. And once again, has some deep roots in Latin, and we don't know it. And that's the word manager.
Oh,
Did you know that?
okay, manager. Tell me more.
So manager, the word manager, and then of course we have management, managing, and so on, is made of two words, Latin words. The first is manus, which means hand.
Oh,
And the second one is agere. There's a verb. Is the ability to move your hands, the ability to do something with your hands. So when that's what I'm saying. If we know the meaning of words, we're feeling also more in control of certain discussions. Because if I want to be a good manager, I need to know how to do things myself first. And only if I know how to do things, I can then train people, evaluate people, coach people that are in my team. If I don't know how to use my hands to imagine back in the day, I mean, you had to build things. Everything was hand built. So if I didn't know how to use my hands to build things, how can then teach the newest guy in the workshop how to build an axe or a chair or a table or whatever they used to be popular back in the day. Yeah, So it's not a fancy word, but it's still there was when we talk about empathy, we talk about empathy all the time. Now more than ever.
Yes.
Fine, but this empathy word is coming from Greek. There are two words again, two in one. And the first part is em, which means inside, into. And the second
Okay.
part is
Yeah.
pathos, or from the verb patheia, which means into the feelings or into the emotions of someone else. But if you don't, once again, stop and reflect about this word, where it's coming from, and why it's built in this way, you miss a crucial point that still people miss nowadays at work and private life. So basically, anytime you interact with another human being, which is the element of the effort you have to pay to be empathetic. Because empathy is something you need to work on, you need to build. Some people feel more natural in that, some people struggle with it, but most people need to really work hard to demonstrate empathy. Because empathy means that this is the example I like to make when I'm in a class, can be in a classroom, can be in in a meeting. When I talk about empathy, imagine you're standing in a box, and in this box you have all your emotions, your feelings. Then another person which is outside of the box decides to jump into your very same box. And in the moment that a person understands where you're coming from, understands why you say what you say, understands why you behave in that way. But this operation requires the effort for the other person to jump into your box. So often when we talk about empathy, we tend to neglect the importance of paying an effort. So we even teach techniques, how to, deep listening, ask powerful questions, and which is fine, absolutely. That's the way. But before we teach that, we need to tell people, hey, it's not easy. It's not natural. Are you willing to make an effort? Because if you inside of you, actually don't really care. I mean, you're wasting everybody's time there. So ask yourself, are you willing to make an effort? And if the answer is yes, okay, now I teach you how to do it. Now I teach you, deep listening, or I teach you how to ask a powerful question.
So without the efforts, we're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
I guess without the efforts, we're just doing whatever we are doing because we feel that's what we should do, not what we must do.
Yeah. The question is, do we understand the benefit of the effort, of making the effort? Because sorry, Mike, if I think that I have to do it, I'm not placing myself in the right spot. I'm placing
Yeah,
myself in a position where it's a must. It's not a desire. So in order to
it's
increase my
what.
levels of desire, I have to understand that actually there's a big benefit for everyone involved if I make an effort.
So we're moving from, this is something I must do because society so we're going from complacency. Sorry, we're going from compliance to
Yeah.
commitment.
Yes, absolutely.
You've changed my mind in this conversation. I knew you were into language. I love listening to you talk. Just your voice is just a thing of joy, genuinely.
Thank you, Mike.
But I thought your use of interest in language was just an intellectual thing, but it's much more than that, isn't it? This is about the meaning of the words we use in everyday conversations. And the meaning
Yes.
should drive the direction of our thoughts, our thinking, our behavior. I
Yeah.
mean, the manager
I
thing,
yes.
hands and using of hands. So coaching is something about, the world over, managers said you need to spend more time coaching, but that coaching would have been the activity of someone who can make the axe or make the chair. They would show someone how to do it. They would coach the apprentice or the person they are mentoring
Yes.
how to make the chair. Yeah, managers these days spend so little time coaching. They just reach for the directory of training and send someone abdicate that responsibility.
Yes. That's true. And I believe this is one of the most current challenges many large organizations are facing nowadays. Missing completely the pure essence of being a manager. Is an endless to-do list, endless tasks, endless KPIs, endless OKP, endless everything. But sometimes we need to simplify things. Sometimes we need to stop and simplify and go back to the origin of things. Otherwise, we lose track. We just we are into the famous, the hamster wheel. And also there's no definition of roles, because until not long ago you had the leader and the manager.
Yes,
Now we're in a situation where we are asking managers to be leaders, which is fantastic if you think about it,
yes,
but you don't equip
yes,
them in being leaders. You teach them how to be better managers, but you can't cherry pick nowadays. Once now you know that if you are covering a managerial role, some people, the famous stakeholders, let's say, the stakeholders, these entities out there, they are expecting
yeah,
you to also to be a leader, and they evaluate your performance according to also not only your managerial but also to your leadership skills or leading skills. But the thing is, how many organizations provide constant support to managers in being effective managers and effective leaders? How many organizations stimulate this form of deep introspection I was referring to a few minutes ago, where a manager or leader, which nowadays is a combo, is 2 in 1,
yeah, yeah.
where you need to first of all stop and reflect about who you are first. I don't know. I haven't met many in my career.
No, no, it's almost like people are promoted to a position of responsibility and accountability. And then it's like, okay, now just make it happen without getting the basics right first,
Yeah.
without really understanding the true intent of that role. Didn't you have a background in planning, city planning?
Yes. Yes. That's my academic background. I have
Does
a
that
master
influence you at
degree.
all?
I have a master degree in town planning. Yeah, very fascinating field, because involves several disciplines like sociology, uh, psychology, economics, infrastructure, history, and then math, and it is very fascinating, a very fascinating discipline, which I believe has helped me a lot to tackle obstacles, situations from different angles in a shorter period of time than maybe most people do. Uh, which means also allow me to see the same thing from another person's perspective more easily.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So I've got a question for you. And you talked about leaders earlier and, about how they can be better. And by the way, you haven't noticed I'm wearing this waistcoat today because I knew I was going to be on Zoom with you. I thought I'd better up my game talking to Daniel. I'd better sort of, put some consideration into the way I present myself.
Look sharp.
No, I don't think so. But anyway, if you had, and it's a genuine question, so please don't just say something nice.
Mm.
And I don't think you would do that anyway, but just for clarity. Here I am before you, and we've worked together a few times now.
Yeah.
What is your feedback to me in terms of how I can be better?
You can be better if you fully unleash your clear desire to know people deeply. And I explain myself now.
Okay.
I think you have this clearly have this genuine interest in people. That is what I perceived the first time I met you. I don't know if you remember, we met online first and then in person. After one
Yes.
year, we met in person. And
Yeah.
what I really enjoyed the most was your ability to use your intelligence to read between the lines and to go deeper in better understanding the person or the people, in case we are in a classroom, the people in front of you. Now, what I will say, because I know the nature of your business, the way you do business, which I incredibly like, is to go even further, even deeper, even more disruptive. And we know what we mean when we say disruptive. Is it with a positive intent? Not for the aim to
Yes.
demolish, but for the aim to create some shock waves so people can wake up, people can be more aware, people can finally look into themselves differently. And so it's not really something that you do wrong. Actually, I want to mention something you do right, and I'm from my bottom of my heart, I'm encouraging you to go ahead even deeper. It doesn't matter what, because I collaborate with very few organizations like yours, very few. This is something I promised myself some year ago, that quality needs to be more important than quantity, which means I want to cherry pick my partners along this journey. And I love the way you guys, you business, which is different. It's very disruptive, and I love it. Otherwise, it would be another form of copy and pasting what other people do already. So this is what I feel like saying, Mike, to you and to the rest of the team, of course, is to continue in that direction. Because you have all the, absolutely, you have all the skills, capabilities to do it well.
I like your use of the word destruction or just destructive.
Yeah.
It often has a negative connotation,
Yeah.
destruction.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes we need to take down the facade, sometimes the artificial,
Yeah.
the self-serving kind of veneer to get to the real person. You think I can be even more destructive?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is something I learned during my studies when I was studying university, town planning, because one of my biggest passions back then was the regeneration factor. How
Yes.
you can, as a, let's say, imagine you are a government body, how you can regenerate a neighborhood or an entire region. So what do you do? And there are different approaches to that. And one of the approaches, you need to demolish, you need to tear things down and rebuild better. Sometimes it's the last resort, but sometimes it's the only thing you can do. So, and the same thing is when we want to regenerate people, and when I say that, I mean how people see themselves. You need to just help them to dig down into who they are and explore with their darkness, explore with a torch. They supported them, but they are the ones, they're the Indiana Jones of their life. It's not you. You are, I say you are, I mean also myself. It's not us. We are helping them in the exploration phase. And that's very uncomfortable. It's very disruptive. And which means sometimes you understand you need to distract, you need to break things down if you want to rebuild on the more solid foundation. So that's the exception. That's the meaning of it. Not destroying for the sake of, because you like to destroy, not just because you want to rebuild stronger.
Yeah, it's not about meanness. It's not about
No.
Doing it just because you can. It's about, okay, to use your town planning, to rebuild better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Really like that. I don't know if you agree with this, and tell me if you don't, but I think a lot of people come to training these days or development programs with the intent of just getting through it.
Yeah.
So they can say, yeah, I've been on that course, I've done that, so I'm all good. And I think a lot of training, a lot of development just panders to that. It allows people to do that. And so without an element of the destruction, as you're calling it, people walk away thinking, well, I'm fully done now.
Yes.
I can lead, I can present, I can communicate. But actually, can they? Yeah.
The biggest satisfaction I have now, regardless of how you do it, if you do it in a very disruptive way or more gentle way, it depends, because then of course you need to
Yeah.
adapt to the audience you have in front. You cannot use it as a normal one-fits-all approach. You need to be able to calibrate the person in front of other people, and then of course, but so regardless of how you do it, for me a success as a corporate trainer is when I see the light bulb
Yeah.
on in my audience eyes, when they go back home or to the office or whatever with a question more, with a new way of thinking, a new pair of glasses, new pair of lenses to see the world through, that's already a success, because I know that's the beginning of something else. It's a form of regeneration. So I generate again. I generate perhaps a new career. Who knows? Some people change career paths because they understand that what they're doing, they're not fulfilled by what they're doing. They need to do something else, or the same thing differently. So for me, that's the biggest success. And something sad is when, okay, they send me here, I have to do it, and I go back to my office without having changed at all. Being the same person. That's yeah, something that I don't want to see as often as the destructive part.
I don't know if I'm looking for it more these days, but I feel more people are inert. They're just kind of stuck.
Yep.
So I think we have a responsibility to help people to be unstuck.
Yes. Yes. But again, this is a collaboration. We do our parts.
Yes.
Our job
Yeah.
is to find ways to promote in them the desire to take action.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, we can't do it all.
No. Oh, I mean, they should pay me way more to if you have to do the job of the person. But I don't think it will work ever, because you need to take your, you need to do your work. Yeah, I can't do the work for you. I'm sorry. You have to do your part of the work.
Daniel, it's been an absolute joy.
Likewise, Mike, as usual.
Thank you for your time.
Of course.
Let's make sure we catch up sometime soon. Long overdue,
Well,
a catch up over a cold drink. But thank you for your time today, and
thank you.
have a good rest of the day.
And you, Mike. Thank you so much for everything. I really appreciate it.